While there have been many changes to the lineup of the Smashing Pumpkins over the years, one constant that has remained is William Patrick Corgan being the driving force. And while many longtime fans have begged for an original lineup reunion, we are now close with James Iha finally back with Jimmy Chamberlin in Sear, the 11th studio album, or double album technically. Back in 2018 when Iha returned after Chamberlin, I was excited and then a bit disappointed with what resulted in Shining Oh So Bright Part 1. Also, I was confused because I figured with Iha back, things could finally turn a corner for Smashing Pumpkins, but we were still waiting. Now in 2020, of all years, we get something different from the group. Sear, running roughly 72 minutes across 20 tracks, marks the Smashing Pumpkins' second double album since the iconic Melancholy. That's a big comparison to stand up to, and to be fair, it's been a while since Corgan and company really had a monumental album. I say that as a big fan of 90s and even to early 2000s Smashing Pumpkins albums. The big sonic difference in the second part of the Shiny and Bright venture is that Sear truly does sound like something out of left field for the group. Several years ago, when many bands were diving headfirst into 80s nostalgia, the Smashing Pumpkins now dip their toes into synth-filled waters, and it honestly sounds refreshing from the band because it's not the status quo for the group. On top of that, this album from the Smashing Pumpkins is self-produced by Corgan instead of working with Rick Rubin this time. There are animated shorts to go along with the music online. Background vocals are done by two great singers in Sierra Swan and Katie Cole. On paper, Sear is that something different from Smashing Pumpkins that many have been waiting for. Including me. It's been a while since Corgan really gave something even remotely memorable, even with former members returning. But now with Sear, with a totally new direction on a double album, is this album something worth hearing? Also, is it worth hearing live? Does it make you want to hear it again? This is a 20-track beast, so I'll be going a bit quicker to cover everything, but here we go. The first two singles were released back in August of 2020. The title track is digitized and synth-filled and has an infectious groove, and it works. Honestly, this is a great title track and it represents the album well. Corgan sounds solid here without going over the top, and background vocals add a lot. It's a fun song to hear. And that's been a while since I've been able to say that about a song from the Smashing Pumpkins. The Color of Love follows that lead with a slight dance groove. The tempo is a bit faster, but the same unique style is felt, and it feels different than the title track. Hearing the song title softly sung as a hook really gets you to move with a basic guitar riff. Another strong track. The next set of songs, starting with the Confessions of a Dopamine Addict, add the strings. The beat is nicely presented, and it's all produced fine, but this is where Corgan comes in a bit more awkward. His voice doesn't match as strong when it's bare and not accompanied with strong music. Wrath brings back the 80s dance beat, almost tapping into the goth side of 80s music. The background vocals are fine, the guitar and drums are all smooth, and the key work is simple but effective. It's a nice track with memorable lines. Ano Santana is a moving track, much like The Color of Love. Iha is great on this one, and it sounds like a great driving song. I really enjoy it, and the song feels like it's trying to contribute to the story of everything. Corgan sounds fine here, it's a steady volume, it's good. Birch Grove starts off peacefully. The music itself with the keys is gorgeous, but it's a slower track, and much like Confessions of a Dopamine Addict, Corgan's vocals don't resonate as well with the song. It's a shame because the song sets a good mood, but it's repetitive after a while. Ramona came next, and this was a fun track to sing along with. The back and forth between singers and the drum beat make the song feel special. The fun synth work really comes out of nowhere, but it did put a smile on my face. The repeated Ramona call does wear out its welcome slightly by the track's end, but that's what makes the song fun in a weird way. Wyttch was the big surprise track from Sear for me, as when I first heard it, the sludgy guitar riff and deeper tone, while keeping some rhythm, makes the song feel like one of the heavier tracks we've heard from the Smashing Pumpkins in years. I liked it. The song feels like everyone is contributing and it all works. All the songs I just listed do feel like a breath of fresh air from a band that hasn't had much to talk about in a decade. Most of them are good at times, even great, but when you hear all of the songs together, you realize that many of them sound wildly similar to each other and at times are interchangeable. The other songs on the album range from good to not much to talk about at all. Purple Blood is plodding and has a gritty effect to the distortion. It's definitely not as memorable as previously described tracks, and while many songs on Sear are short, this one feels much longer than the 3-minute 19 it runs. The music doesn't offer much until the song abruptly stops. Dulcet in E is a step quicker and is upbeat and light. It's harmless enough and some of the guitars and synth effects work, but it's another example of Corgan's vocals not meshing as well with the music. The additional vocal tracks add a bit into the song and help flesh it out, it's not bad, but forgettable. StarCraft has a soft, quick beat underneath some good ambient sounds. When the speed picks up, Corgan sounds better and the guitars are nice. Even with the weird warbled out exasperations echoing out, there's a good progression through the track and it's a good inclusion on the album. Save Your Tears is what an 80s sci-fi villain would make an entrance with. The vocals are modded a bit also, and while I definitely hear what the intention is, this one doesn't exactly flow as strongly as other tracks. Synth overload, but it does at least belong on the album. Telegenics has some layered back and forth between two Billy Corgans, and if you weren't into his voice before, this might not be for you. The song starts off with that shock, but the music behind it is still strong with that distorted bass, and the track does get better as it goes on. Black Forest Black Hill sets up a different atmosphere than the 80s dance club in previous songs. The drum hits are raised up and the background vocals make it slightly haunting. There's a lot going on in this track at over 4 minutes, and while a lot is occurring, it doesn't leave much of an impression. Adrenaline continues that darker atmosphere, but with more of a rhythm, and while Corgan isn't singing loud or angry, his voice, along with the intense beat, gives an intimidating sound. It's the change-up that makes the song feel like two different tracks, though. Not bad by any means, but very disjointed. Haunted is where things go off the rails a bit. It's meant to be calmer, and I get the title Haunted isn't supposed to be something soothing, but this song doesn't keep your attention at all. Some of the mixing on this is a bit rough as well. 3 minutes of not much. The Hidden Sun starts awkwardly, but turns out to be a moving track that's part peaceful but never dull. The energy is picked back up a touch after the last few songs, and everything meshes better here. This is much more in line with the first half of the album, and it works because of that. Schadenfreude falls back into line with Adrenaline and Haunted, where there's a lot going on, but it's hard to keep your attention. It's songs like these that I feel could have been scrapped. Not awful, but really adds so much more to an already massive project. Tiger Tiger is where it sounds like James Iha just took a Casio keyboard and played with sound effects. The digital percussion and over-processed everything is just a bit too much. I mean, wow, this was a lot to take in. And finally, Minerva wraps everything up back with the movement, and while it sounds extremely like many other songs done on this album already, I feel like it's an appropriate closeout to something like this, especially as it's such a unique album. Heavy keys, guitar effects, it's the perfect closing credits song. This album is by far the most interesting album the Smashing Pumpkins have put out in roughly a decade, and I really wish I would have liked it more than I did. It does get an extra point because they really thought outside the box, and it was self-produced, and added great elements here, mainly with the background vocals. But this project begged to be a single album of roughly 12 songs or so. It did not need to be a double album, and the whole thing suffers because of it. It's fine. But wow, I've had my fill of synth keys for a while. Overall, Sir proves that Corgan and company still have a few tricks up their sleeves. It may not live up to the standards of the Smashing Pumpkins from the 90s, but it's definitely in a creative step forward for the group and gets an extra point for trying something new while doing it on their own. It'll satisfy diehard fans and maybe even hook a few casual listeners who want to give Corgan another try. But other than that, if you are not a fan of 80s synth, stay far away. What did you think of Sir? Leave a comment and let everyone know. Big thanks to my patrons and a special thanks to Brandon Barenfeld, Chris Doman, McKenna White, and Dom Smith. You can have a say in upcoming videos and see videos early by supporting Rocked on Patreon. More information in the link in the video description. Please subscribe and ring the bell to get notified on upcoming videos. You can check out my concert photography on Instagram, and you can keep up to date with Rocked on Facebook and Twitter.